Think we're live.
And we're live. Happy Halloween.
Woohoo!
Oh my gosh. This is my
Live, all
favorite.
and in person, all of us in Mexico.
The glitchy internet just proved it. The, it's like it. We're live. That was so good. Oh my gosh. This is the summit is 1 week earlier than usual this year out of
No, it's
necessity
not.
for our booking. Well, yeah, it is, or it's a few
No,
days
it's not.
earlier.
It's the
Yep.
exact same week as it was last year, dude.
No,
Yep.
it's like 2 or 3 days earlier because
Oh, here we go.
no one came in for Dia de los Muertos or for Halloween. That's how I know. But the
No,
point
but the
is,
summit.
everyone's here and gets to experience it. It's my favorite. These are my favorite holidays. That's kind of why. Of course, Mara has. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I had something to kick us off with. I totally lost. Totally lost my train of thought now. What were we starting with?
I was debating.
Oh, I know what we're talking about. Okay, so here's the theme for a moment. You run your business doesn't run you. It's such an obvious statement, but the summit sort of highlights this. And I think that it highlights it in a few ways. One of the ways is for the owners who are coming down here. Maria and I have done no less than 50 application calls for people wanting to come to the Yoga Business Summit. And of the people who we approved and said, yeah, this would make sense for you to come, the ones who did not come, did not decide to sign up, mostly was a time constraint. They're like, I don't think I can get away from my studio for a week. I'm not sure about this. Like it was always some relation to the being able to escape their studio, to which we have to respond because of our what we
Bullshit.
call our no BS policy. That means your business is running you. Like what if it feels like that, then something's out of whack. And it may or may not be true, but beyond that, it shouldn't be that case. The other way that this happens, if you think for the coaching crew, we're a small team. All of our clients, like we have to schedule it on a week where we have one of our exhale weeks. So we don't have too many calls to reschedule. We give them the warning. And guess what? Everyone's happy about it. It's totally fine because we're clear with the expectations up front. We still make sure we're getting everything done. No one's being shorted in any way. Otherwise, you never escape your business. So I applaud the owners who are coming down this week, but also just to say that if you're in that place with your business where you're like, oh, I don't know if I can run a staff meeting because I don't think people would show up, or it's too hard to schedule it across everyone, or you're like, I can't get away on vacation, or I can't invest in myself this way. Or Terry, you're making the point like, I don't know if I'm going to have time this week between teaching and blah, blah, blah to be able to work on my business doing this other thing that's going to make it grow. That's I don't know. I'm speaking very bluntly these days. That's not right. It doesn't have to be like that. You make the rules of the game. I'll end my rant there for a second.
Okay. Yeah. No, totally. I mean, I hear that a lot. You hear, maybe you do as well. It's like, oh, I didn't get, my action items done or my homework done because of this came up or that came up. And yes, absolutely, 100% emergencies do happen for sure. And I think often too, and because I know I was guilty of this, is sometimes we use that as an excuse because maybe we don't want to put the work in that we need to put in. And it's like, I'm doing all these other things, so I'm super busy, but are you doing, what are you doing? Are you super busy on the things, on the high value tasks? Or are you just down in the weeds on the low value tasks because it makes you feel like you're getting stuff done? And because you're not wanting to tackle. And the reason I can say this with full transparency is I was this person for sure, because I don't want to tackle those maybe more thorny issues or those issues that make me feel uncomfortable, or like, I don't want to look at my KPIs because then if I don't look at them, then maybe the problem's going to go away. And all of a sudden someone's waved their magic wand and my retention is better, or this is better. And then by doing all these other things, we feel like we're getting stuff done. In reality, it's just an excuse from keeping us to do the work that makes us uncomfortable. What do you think, Carol?
Yeah, it's taking me back to, I mean, we all read the 10 times is easier than 2 times book. And the guy emphasizes, we spin our wheels a lot in the 80% that doesn't, it's stuff that we have to do. But if you really focus, there's 20% there that's of high value. That's how I interpreted it, where it's like, really, you could get so much more impact from doing those tough things. And yeah, I'm just enamored by Terry like fixing this little pumpkin on her head. Yeah, so and I was guilty of that too. It's really hard sometimes to see that, but I think as coaching, like we see it all the time, and it's like there is a better way. So yeah, I think that's where the coaching is really impactful because we can help identify like here's your like I'll literally put on the action focus here first. You have to get this thing done, and I think that clarity really helps with the clients a lot of times.
Yeah, like the idea of the focus here first, prioritization. I think that's one of the biggest, most valuable points of having a coach. I know for coaches I've hired for myself, even it's very seldom they tell me something I don't already know in some way. They help me clarify things and prioritize things and hold me accountable. Like that's really what it comes down to.
Well, one of my favorite books that we talk a lot about is Profit First, right? And the author that Mike McCall, I always butcher his last name. He wrote a book called Fix This Next, which is exactly about that, identifying, the things that we talk about it here at the summit, the dominoes. What's the thing that happens first in order to get this thing down the road? And sometimes we're focusing on stuff so far down the road, or that we're missing, like, this is the one thing that needs to get done right away in order to move the business forward. And sometimes that one thing is not fun. And also here's something I'll throw this out there too, is do you find yourself, again, guilty as charged, is working on the things you like to do the most? Because we all have the things that are in our wheelhouse, right? We all have the things that we feel really good at. We feel we're good at doing it. We have a really good skill set for doing that. And it makes we get ego strokes and we feel really empowered doing those things. And then those things in our business that we're not so good at. So I would rather do this than this. And so also, it's also a good reality check is if you find yourself constantly going to your favorite type of things, it's like, okay, you need to start doing those other things that are equally as important. Like I never would have given up my front desk. Truthfully, you guys all know this. I love working the front desk. That's going to be my after, if you want to get on my list, I'll throw it out there, is if you want to put me up in a place, provide housing for me, let me take yoga, I will work your front desk. I'll come and, hang out for a month and work your front desk. I want to do that. Anyway, so.
Well, to that point,
other parts of my business were being ignored because of that.
Right. And the thing is, you're never going to not be busy.
Right.
It's why like it's not even worth talking about anymore. Like the hustle grind culture is dying and dead because people see through that shit. But now it's like the pendulum swinging too far the other way, where it's almost too relaxative. It doesn't mean you don't have to put in the work. You're still responsible for actually making shit happen. But tying it into this, it's like there's always going to be a million things for you to do. Being busy is not being productive. So when we're looking at your business, realizing there are things that are what you need to prioritize. There are things that you like to do, and it's not that you can't do them, but if they are then sacrificing things that are something you should prioritize, there are things that only you can do. So you got to make sure you check those boxes. But then how do you do that? How do you have time to come down to the summit? How do you get your staff meeting together? How do you make sure you've got the work block to get the shit you're supposed to get done? It's a really non-satiating answer. You just fucking do it. Like that's kind of what it comes down, because we've used the analogy, and we'll be definitely talking about this at the summit. Your business is like a game that you're building. So if you were building a game, Sasquatch sighting. No, Marie's in the back.
Bree goes, am I on camera? I said, yeah, come over and say hi.
Yeah, you definitely are. What's up, G Money?
Hey.
Rolls in with the Suns. I love it.
And a big bottle of water.
So if you were building a game and you wanted to make sure that you always won the game, what would you do? You would make the rules of the game so that you can't lose. Like, that's your business. So if you're finding yourself stuck, it's either you need to change the rules because you own it, and or you're playing the game wrong. You're looking at it from the wrong angle. You're thinking that something is a responsibility of yours when it doesn't have to be. And I love tying it into the procrastination element of things, because people don't look at being busy as a form of procrastination. We'll talk about this at the summit too, but being busy is the number one form of procrastination. Keeping yourself busy doing shit.
There's always stuff you can do, the thing you're procrastinating with. There's always the thing you do. And you made me think about this, is that, like you said, prioritize and make it, you're the one that makes the rules. And here's the other thing, and I would do that, I would say this to myself, and I would say this sometimes to my staff, is in our business, as owning yoga studios, if something doesn't happen, like if you step away for a week or something like that, and something comes up, and if it doesn't happen or doesn't get solved, is anybody going to die?
Yeah. Will the business
Right?
close? Will you bankrupt?
Yeah, it's like, okay, obviously something like the plumbing, the pipes burst, or the heat, or something like that. Yes. However, even if that happened and you were away and you ended up having to close for a couple of days because of it, and you weren't there to, it's like, is anybody going to die? No. And would there maybe be some pissed off clients? Perhaps. But if you send out a message saying, we've got this problem, we have to close, it's like, is that the end of the world? I mean, let's put it in perspective, right?
And those things as well are like, that's not in your control if the pipes burst. Yeah. Whether you're there or not, or whether you were working the front desk or doing work on your business or not, like those are the unpredictable ebbs and flows of just life and business. So, the Mike, it's Michalowicz or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but in that book, he talks about, it's the business hierarchy of needs is what it's called. And I don't remember all of it. There's 5 or 6 levels, but what I do remember is number 1 need is sales, and the last 2 needs are impact and legacy. So, and I actually agree, like we kind of coach towards that. What's interesting about it is sales is maybe one of the best examples as a yoga studio or a wellness business out there that people are not looking at. They're not looking at sales and selling and getting leads for more sales and like really putting in like significant daily effort and focus towards that. But they want that. On the other hand, they're talking about the legacy and the impact and how great my product is and how impactful it is. It's not that that's wrong, but it's like it's flipped upside down. And I don't know, as controversial as it might sound, like that's such a form of mental masturbation of just being like, we're so great and our product is so powerful and it helps so many people and I've got the best teachers and the community loves everyone and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, your business is going like this, and then eventually you close, or 2 years later, you're like, yeah, it's so great, but like, I hate going into my own business. I dread having to go in to teach a class. I would do anything to avoid this one employee that I have. Like, these are real scenarios that we deal with. It's not everyone, but just that's fuckity. Like, it shouldn't be like that. So to me, part of that comes from that flipping around this hierarchy of what needs to be prioritized. Yeah.
So I just looked it up. Mike, Michalowicz.
Spelling does not help us say it.
Okay.
Mike M.
Mike M, structure of hierarchy of needs, which is based on the seminal research by Maslow, who's a social psychologist from way back. And so he says, tier one, sales. Helping your company survive by earning sales revenue through sales. That's number one. Tier two, profit. Helping your company endure and prosper by earning revenue, enough revenue that can safely withdraw profit. Structure, increasing your company's stability. Influence, encourage customer and employee loyalty. And 5, self-perpetuation. That's his hierarchy of needs. So number one is sales.
Sales and then profit.
Sales and profit.
Guess what happens? Dude, I'm sorry. We're shitting on the yoga world right now. You guys don't know what you're walking into in this business of it. I'm fired up this year. What are the number one complaint? The like anti-business narrative of the yoga world. Oh, I don't believe in selling. I shouldn't have to ask that person to sell something. Oh, if they want it, they'll buy it on their own. Or I don't know if we should do,
I don't want to sell it.
Let's lower the price of my drop-in. It's like the
it's
exact
lower
opposite.
the price. I love that one. Carol, didn't you have that happen recently with a pricing conversation with someone? I think I remember you saying something about that.
I don't remember that. We were talking about raising it really high, but I don't remember. But definitely the discussion of like people will just buy it on their own. I don't want to feel too salesy. I don't want to put this on my Google page. Like I don't want to put my intro on my Google page because that comes off as like salesy. Like people are they're looking you up. Tell them what you want them to buy. Like just make it really easy for them to know what you want them to do. That's the whole point, right? So it's very funny sometimes.
Well, I think another thing that this makes me that like brings to mind we were talking about off camera is these narratives that owners have that we encounter frequently, which are coming from a core place that is good, but they get almost like misappropriated in their use and they become an excuse and therefore like can actually hinder the business from moving forward. The specific example we were talking about is the idea of loyalty. And actually I put a video out not that long ago about the last time I was at a conference. I won't throw the conference out of the bus, but I was on a panel and it was me and 4 or 5 other consultants or coaches or whatever else. And and a couple owners, and they were going through and asking like, what's the most important thing you're looking for in employees? And all of them, one person started it. And after she said it, then everyone else was loyalty. Oh yeah. Most important thing is loyalty. Most important thing is loyalty. Before they asked me, they even polled the crowd. They were like, do you guys agree that loyalty is the most, like, who thinks loyalty is the most important thing or whatever? Like everyone puts up their hand. And I was like, what? Loyalty isn't something that you can look for. Loyalty is a result of your relationship. I'm not looking for loyalty. Loyalty is the responsibility of the owner in the business to create, not the employee. It really irked me actually. But what is loyalty? Because the way that it appears to us is not to say loyalty is not valuable. Of course it's valuable. But the way it gets presented often to us on the coaching side is, oh, my staff is so loyal. This person's been so loyal. This person's so loyal. And that's the reasoning to accept their misbehavior, even a tantrum. It's the reason to accept their underperformance. It's a reason to not ask them to do something because you don't think that they would be comfortable with it, etc. Carrie, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I just, of course, looked up the definition of loyalty, and then some of the synonyms are like commitment and dedication. So I think, and this came out of a conversation I had the other day with a client, is like, oh, my teachers are so loyal, they're so loyal. And it's like, well, if they're so loyal, then why aren't they doing what they're supposed to do? They show up and teach the class. Yeah, okay. If that's a pretty low bar for loyalty. And because they've been teaching for me for 15 years or how many years, and they show up and they teach their class, but yet I need them to do these things, and they won't do them. They won't even stand where they're supposed to stand. They won't, they constantly are with the people, they're students. And in some cases, I actually straight up asked a client the other day, I just made a statement. I said, it sounds like your teachers basically only want to teach once a week for free yoga. They're really more there just to practice, and they teach once a week. And is that really loyal? And they won't do all the things that you ask them to, or need them to do.
Right. Maybe that's a
I don't
form of
know. I
loyalty,
wouldn't say
but
that's so loyal.
yeah. I think the deeper definition of loyalty to me is like, it's about dedication, right? Loyalty is this sense of commitment and dedication
Dedication,
to a group, a brand, a person, whatever, and
common cause.
common cause. It is actually a really important word to be super articulate and clear on the definition of for yourself, call it whatever you want. There's a big difference in my mind between retention of an employee and loyalty of an employee. Those are not the same thing. I might continue to teach at your studio because you're the most convenient place for me to teach at, because I live around the block. You pay me just fine, and I want to teach once a week, and then I want to practice for free and get a +1 for my spouse to come and practice. That's not being loyal. You're just retaining me. Loyalty, in my mind, is a step further than that, where there's a trustworthiness, there's a level of commitment to the brand, there's a respect element of things, there's a shared vision. Like, that's what the commitment is, toward building something more. And it's not that you can ask for this, but there's some element of sacrifice. There's some element in loyalty of like, because we share the same vision for this bigger purpose, I'm willing to do the thing that I don't want to do. Or I'm like, you need me to teach another class this week. Okay, I'm gonna make that happen, because the bigger picture is more important to me than, do I want to teach a second class this week, sort of thing.
And here's the big kicker one. I'm willing to become comfortable selling a yoga package because I buy into the vision of the studio that we're here to save people's lives. So for all the, say, oh, they're so loyal, but yet you're instituting like a new process, whether it's an SOP, whatever it is, and they buck you tooth and nail on it, and they fight you, and then they end up not even doing it, or straight up said, I am not going to do this.
Right.
Is that really, just because they've been there for 10 years, does that really mean they're loyal? No, that's the dedication and a commitment. That's the, like you said, that's the buying into the vision, the buying into the greater, the vision you're creating, buying into your core values. And when someone just straight up says, nope, I'm not going to do that, is that really somebody you want to have around?
Well, or even if you want to have them around, say it's the wrong person in the seat. You're like, okay, this person is going to exist in my organization in this seat in this way, and I'm not going to ask them to do these things. You can structure that way. That's actually how you can hold on to some really powerful talent when they're talented at a specific thing, right? But then they need to perform in that specific way.
Yeah.
A yoga teacher is a good example. If you're a great teacher, your class is full and your retention is great, and they're like, I don't want to work the front desk doing sales stuff, or like whatever, clean the room afterwards. Fine, put someone else on with them, but they have to still keep those other performance things going in theory, and they need to not undermine what's happening. And I think that's the other part of it, that like, just if someone's been with you for 5 or 10 years and then they think that it's acceptable because of that to undermine your authority in front of your whole team and say no, that they refuse to do something, or to start, like, we've literally seen it where staff goes and like, they go behind the scenes and they're talking to the other staff to sort of like build this little bit of like a mutiny around the new thing that the owner's asking them to do, like shit like that. Now we're talking about more extreme cases, but just that happens. And then the owner will be like, yeah, but they've been with me for 8 years. They're very loyal. Like, I feel empathetic to the owner in these situations. And it's where I've gotten myself into some tension talking with groups of yoga teachers. But like, that's weird. That's like the course of the whole thing. So I don't know. What do you think about loyalty, Carol?
Sorry, I think it's kind of loud here. I think it comes down to not demanding respect as the owner, but having, again, we've talked about this recently too, just stepping into your confidence as the owner and really laying the law down in a way. And I think, Josh, you said something about like you have to be hard first and then soft, right? You kind of have to punch it in and be a little bit rough, maybe not rough, hard first, like you lay it down and then you can show empathy and then you can like ask for their input and things like that. And so um I think it goes back to being a good leader too,
Mm,
is that like you earn that loyalty, you earn the respect, and that's what makes the team want to do the things that you're asking them to do. Like you're able to, implement the sales with your team and like have, the entire team on board with you because they respect you and understand that the vision, and you've been able to articulate that to the team too, and they're on board. So I don't know. I mean, I certainly learned that too, like that you can't let those, we call them like the cancers. Like they're the
mm,
cancer of your business when somebody is like, nope, I'm not doing that. Well, then I don't care if you've been with me for 12 years.
yeah.
You're not, you're not on board. We go back to our core values. We look at that and say, it looks like you're not aligning with what we're doing now. And if you need to go, then you go. And that's a really, really hard thing to do as an owner, I think.
Yeah.
And like we said, we see that a lot. And yeah, so loyalty is earned. I really agree with that wholeheartedly. Um, and I think you want people that are dedicated and can learn and they're willing to take responsibility and ownership of their part in the studio. That's what I'd look for.
I like that. I think spinning off of that, like, so what is loyalty on the positive side and what does that look like and how do you build that? I think one of the things that is, and this ties to the summit conversation too, one of the things that is maybe underappreciated in how it builds legitimate loyalty. I think that loyalty comes from it's like shared vision, but more so shared experience. If we both go through something together, that builds a loyalty between people. And that can happen with the business too. But even more specifically, I think shared positive experience. So we're talking about it from the negative side. Then the positive side, it's like if you want to breed more loyalty in your crew, then like you need to have shared positive experiences. The shared element just means like you can't neglect the relationship. There needs to be an actual connection there. I think the thing that like larger corporate America, corporate Western culture doesn't understand is that why would I be loyal to a place that's got, 150 employees, 1,000 employees, whatever. And like, I don't ever get to talk to the CEO. Like, I don't know who anyone is. Why would I be loyal to the brand, you know, in that sort of situation? By extension, even down to a yoga studio, if you got people who just work for you, people are always confused about like, oh, well, I want this yoga teacher who teaches at 10 different places to teach more here and to not promote their other thing or whatever else. And that's a sign of being not loyal. But you're like, yeah, because from their perspective, you're 1/10 of the yoga teaching that they do. So until there's more connection, until there's more shared experience, of course they're not going to be loyal to you.
I wanted to pipe in and say that like I was reading this book about relationships and this applies in business and with your teams as well. And when you're loyal to someone, it's because you trust them and not in the sense that like you trust them to close up the studio and do the cash count, but like you trust their word. So
Yeah.
they say they're going to do something and they do it and you build up that trust and then that's what builds up the loyalty as well because you know that they're going to do what they say and they're going to stand by you and support you. And even with your business mission, your core values, like they work with you and align themselves with those values. And you build up that trust within loyalty with that person and your employees.
Yeah, I like that, Mara. Well, to that point, the fact that someone closes up the studio or teaches a class or whatever else, that's called doing your job.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the minimum bar
Yeah.
of what it's supposed to be. So the trustworthiness, yeah, I think being reliable and dependable. But I was reading a thing talking about trustworthiness, and its definition was good, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something to the effect of someone is trustworthy when I can accurately, at least 90% of the time, accurately predict how they will react in a situation. That's who you end up trusting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I have trust of Mara because I'm like, I don't know, anything could go sideways, and I feel pretty confident I know more or less where Mara's going to land on the macro on what's going to happen. You know, like that's what makes it trustworthy. So, yeah.
And I just want to go back to your point about, teaching at multiple locations. And a lot of teachers, I mean, because I supported myself teaching yoga for a decade. And at one point I was teaching at 5 different studios. And I don't think there's it's like, sometimes I think studio owners get really, it's like, oh, I don't want them to only teach here and exclusivity and things like that. However, one, it's really hard to control because you can't really block someone's livelihood kind of thing. But also it was like, and I had my teachers taught at multiple locations. All I said is, hey, I'm fine with them teaching it. It's just that when you're at this studio, you represent this studio.
You're at this studio. Yeah.
You're at this studio, right? So if you're teaching at, 3 other studios, cool, but please don't bring their water bottle into my studio. Don't wear their swag when you're here. Just promote when you're here at the Hot Yoga Factory, you're promoting the Hot Yoga Factory. You're promoting your classes at the Hot Yoga Factory. Now, I would say if someone asked you, say, hey, you teach at Nomad Yoga Studio, when you fine, you can answer the question, but you're not actively promoting where you're teaching, at least at the studio, right? And so I think there's that too, and that can breed that can breed loyalty, and that can breed competence, and that can breed all of those other things as well, is respecting me as a teacher and respecting my profession. So I can see both sides of it. It's just, it all goes down to teacher expectations and having those expectations defined. And this is what I expect from you. And that I think when you do have, and we know this, when everything is written down and everybody does understand, and there is transparency in that also breeds trust. Because I know what to expect from you, you know what to expect from me. And then if there's a problem, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. This didn't happen. What can we do to fix that kind of thing? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think also it's to put yourself in someone else's shoes that helps to clarify this psychologically. If a teacher's teaching at 4 other places, is it because they want to teach at all 4 places, or because they're being selfish, not in a negative way, but like they're trying to make some money and they want to teach more classes? Can you give them all those classes? Would you even want to? Can you even pay them? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that doesn't indicate non-loyalty necessarily either. It's not necessarily a negative thing. And then to your point, how professional they are when they're in your space is really, how that relationship could look. The business of yoga is a conversation. I've been hired throughout the years to go and talk at teacher trainings, a few bigger teacher trainings. And that's something that we do if you're ever looking to have a coach come in and run a session for a day with your teacher training. But there's also the yoga of
the train feature teachers about the business of yoga before they have any preconceived notions or ideas.
The couple teacher trainings we've spent time doing this with seriously, the teachers that come out of it, when we ask the owners of the studios where those teachers end up teaching, they report back that they really appreciate the mentality of those teachers. Like the way that they're coming into the business, they already understand that they need to, like what it looks like to be professional, but they know that they need to, they understand that they need to move in the business as part of the whole business. They're not just there to teach the class. There's more to sort of their fulfillment obligations as well. So certainly powerful. But there's also the yoga of business. And I think that this is something that is going to come up big at the summit because, well, one, it's in my sort of opening speech, but
Because you're going to make it
also,
that way.
I'm going to make it that way. But also because all of this stuff we're talking about, I think you could distill it back down to the core yoga principle of awareness. And that's it. All of this stuff, like, you have clarity on where you should be focusing your time and effort. You have clarity on like what real loyalty is it that you want and who is really loyal. And you get clear on the rules that you need to create in the game of your business, etc. When you become really, really hyper aware of yourself, your larger objective for your business, and then also super aware of like what's actually happening in your business as well. So by extension, this is a rambly way of just saying yoga and business, like it's the same thing. The thing that we see often, I think, on the coaching side are owners who have a deep belief in yoga, but they still don't realize that in their own mind, they haven't started to apply their yoga philosophical and yoga practice belief system into their own business. They still have these things as separate things. I like yoga. I'm a yogi. I do yoga stuff. I am a yoga teacher. And then I have this yoga business. And these are two separate things. And that separation, the lack of awareness that they are the same thing, is in itself, at its core, the thing that's holding owners back. Maybe I'll let you comment first, Terry, before Carol.
For once, I'm processing.
Got her.
You got me.
Here's a simple example. We know that in yoga practice, there are 4 tenets to success: consistency, frequency, accuracy, intensity. I think as a yoga teacher, you also teach in that way. You teach towards consistent practice. You teach towards frequent practice. You teach towards accuracy in the practice. Then you add in the intensity. The order matters. That is literally exactly the formula to succeed at anything else, but for your business too. Going back to the Mike, whatever his last name is. Sorry, Mike, if you watch this.
Mike M.
Mike M. We love you. We just can't say your name. Going back to the Mike M. Business hierarchy of needs. Number 1, sales. Well, how do we approach getting more sales? Well, first, come up with a plan that you can consistently deliver. Just try to do something this one time, like be consistent in your effort. And then frequency. Are you doing it consistently once a week that you're making some sales calls or putting a video out or whatever else? Or are you doing it every day? Then accuracy, in doing that, you have enough volume that your skill will get better. You'll get better at creating the ad, creating the piece of content, having the phone call, having the same conversation, whatever. So you become more accurate. You're better at it. And then intensity, it's like try harder at doing it. I think it's exactly the same thing. Here's this scenario. Let's use sales as the example. Studio A, when someone comes into the studio, they make one crack at it at the start of the class to offer someone the intro, and it's kind of half-assed. Studio B pre-calls everyone who's booked, has a conversation with them, sends a text message, tries before the class. In the class, the teacher knows and engages them. After the class, there's a follow-up, and for the next 24 hours, there's a phone call and a text message and email. Who's going to get more sales? Like if you're a betting person. So consistency, frequency, accuracy, intensity.
Yep. It's like anything, you just got to do it. You got to do it more. You got to do it and do it and do it. Because we've been having, and I told 100%, because we talked about this the other day, Josh, is that we've got a couple of clients that we're doing some some ads things, and they're getting leads every day from Facebook. They're coming in, and when I tell them that you need to follow up more, it's like beyond one call or one text, like what?
Right.
It's like these leads are coming in, they're coming in every day, 2, 3, 4 leads every day are coming in. And one phone call is not going to suffice. And even if they say no, if they don't say no, and they put you off, you keep trying and you keep trying and keep trying. I just said, seriously, if you wanted, I said this, it's a numbers game. And until they give you no, thank you, I'm not interested, you keep trying.
Yeah.
If they say, well, now's not the right time. Okay, when is the right time? I'll check back with you. Make a note, check back with them.
Yeah. Yeah, but Terry, I don't want to bug people.
Well, they wouldn't have filled out a form, and they wouldn't have given you, they filled out a form that gave their first name, last name, email, and phone number. And I said, so if
They're not interested.
they're not, if someone took the time to give you that level of
I give people
information,
that shit on the street all the time for no reason.
yeah, it's like you keep trying, because they basically gave you permission to contact them.
My
Otherwise-
own wife doesn't have that much information about me. But I gave it to Carol's ad, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Then say no. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
One of the things that this also creates, and this sort of ties together some of our entire conversation here too, there is this cycle of growth that you go through as an entrepreneur that is something to the effect of how much you do something, the amount of time you do it, and how good you are at doing it. And it doesn't matter where you start. If you aren't very good at doing something, the only way to get better at it is to do it a bunch of times over time. And that builds more skill. But then the thing that's interesting is that when you get more skill, then you can produce the same result in less time. So the amount of required time to do it is less, which means then you can put more time in to get more volume at a higher skill. And so everything spirals up. That's the subtle difference that's hard to tangibly define between a yoga studio owned by that's been open for 2 years by an owner who's maybe a little more green in the business versus someone who's been going powerfully, like really has been honing their craft as an entrepreneur for 10 years, 12 years, and the kind of results they're able to get in a given time frame. Their capacity to do more work is exponentially higher, not because they're better, they're not smarter, they don't have a better product. It's none of those things that we want to look at. Not because their drop-in's less money, not because, their wife or husband is independently wealthy and they've got more funding behind it. It's not that none of that matters, but like, that's not why. It's because they're putting the work in and spiraling up. You see that shirt? Oh my gosh. I'm not even sure we'll probably have this video taken down if we explain Terry's shirt, but
I
get the
think you're
staff all
right.
down to Mexico and yeah.
Don't look too close.
All right. Summit starts in a few days. Happy Halloween.
Josh, you're gonna come join us at the yoga house later, because his whole team is in Salilita right now.
I'm staying in
Which is pretty cool.
I'm hermiting in my own office. I'm not going over there.
That's okay.
I'm joking. I'm coming over soon. All right. Have a great weekend. And what's the thing that you need to do? What's the most high impact thing you need to do in your business? The owner's here. That's what we're working on. Day one, that's the first thing we're doing. What is the highest 1, 2, 3 things in the next year that you need to do to accomplish your vision for your business? So
And
right
then-
now, sit down, look at your business, look at yourself. What do you need to do? What's the one thing? Pick one. One
Pick
only.
one.
Yeah.
And then
Post in the
how are you
comments
gonna
down
make
below.
it happen?
Yep.
How are you gonna make it happen? Carve out the time to make it happen.
Beauty. All right.
Beauty.
Have a great
Bye,
weekend.
team. We'll see ya.